playing game. Sing for the few.
The game is yours to play now.
The light provides.
This is Eventide Radio.
Wow.
Hello and welcome back to Eventide Radio. This is a fan-made Destiny podcast where we have roundtable discussions about a variety of different topics concerning the popular video game franchise. At its core, this show is about having in-depth discussions about the game from a variety of different perspectives. I'm host Scotty, with me and my co-hosts Rob and Matt, and today we have kind of a bummer of an episode. I feel like I say that far too often, but today we're talking about the recent news where Bungie laid off about 17% of their company, which equates to about a little over 200 people, I believe, right?
It's nearly 300.
Yeah.
Because
220, and then they moved 155 to Sony, I believe.
Yes.
Big shifts, and this is the reward Bungie employees got after creating the final shape. Congratulations, best expansion of the game. You're fired. So we're going to be talking about that whole situation, what that means for the game, what that means for the future of the franchise, what that means for the future of the company as well. And this is going to be interesting. I'm thinking we're going to talk about this probably the entire episode because it is such a big deal. So I normally start this show off, if you're new here, by going around the room and asking people, hey, what'd you do this week in Destiny? But I feel like that would be kind of tone deaf to
is sulking
talk about.
Is sulking an answer? Yeah.
Yeah, that's an answer. There you go.
I went into the tower and I sulked in the corner.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, you could say like, oh, I've been creating awful memes and posting them on Reddit.
I mean, did you see what I posted on Twitter? I was wondering.
No, I didn't see. What did you post?
All right, I'm gonna go look now.
No, I was gonna post a meme, but I didn't. And I just posted just text.
Oh wait,
I was like, I sent it. And I was like, that was funny. And
no meme about the conductor today because the only joke here is speed bars.
And I was like, shit, and I'm not going to get in trouble for that one.
Nah, it'll be fine.
I don't think it was that bad. I've seen way worse said about him. So
we'll get into some of the we'll call it artwork.
I'll post the meme
about Pete Parsons.
Depending on when this goes out, I'll post the meme the week after that was posted. So,
So if you're out of the loop, I'm sure most people know, but Pete Parsons, for reference, is the current CEO of Bungie. One of the big jokes about him going around, besides himself, is the fact that since 2022, he's spent $2.4 million on his car collection. So, yeah. And then he's, what were you saying, Matt? He was like going around asking people a couple days prior to the layoff.
A story one of the devs had before they were laid off was that 2 days before they were told that they were laid off, he offered one of them to come to his house and look at his car collection, which I'll preface this. All right, it's very shitty that he spent that much money while there's layoffs going on in his company. However, it is his money. You know, he earns it, whether he deserves it or not. That's his money. It's not like he's taking the company's money and spending it, you know. However, it's very tone deaf is the problem. Especially offering employees, you know, would you like to come see my car collection? Oh, sorry, you don't have a job anymore. Like, that's tone deaf. But the money is already his. But the only other point I will make is the only reason we know that he has spent this much money on cars is because his profile on this auction site, this specific one, he has his account, it's public, and it's definitely him because it's Parsons BNG. Don't know why you'd have that as on your thing. I'm wondering if his PA set that account up, and it's like, I'll just have BNG. That's what I'd do, but that's public. There could be other auction sites where his account is not public, or he doesn't use that name, or something else. So that's as far as we know. Yeah. I would like to point that out. You know, he could have bought a car from just, as a person, he didn't necessarily have to go to an auction. So, could be even more tone deaf. But yeah, it's just very out of touch tone deaf to come and speak to someone you might not necessarily remember the individual person getting laid off. Remember, there was hundreds of people who were laid off, but it's still very, very tone deaf. I doubt, he would have known at that point. I feel like he would have known at that point, 2 days prior, that some of these people were going.
Oh, 100%.
Well,
That's
this
like a
some
premeditated decision. It's
yeah,
not like a spur of the moment. Let's get rid of 17% of the
No,
company.
I mean, well, depending on the company, but it's in his mind. I mean, in the sense of, I'm not defending him, but I mean in the sense of like, you might not know every single person, remember every single person who is being laid off the top of your head. However, it's still tone deaf as fuck, and it's kind of disgusting behavior, to be honest.
Yeah, and I mean, something like this had to have been in the works for months. I mean, I wouldn't even be surprised if it came out that like sometime shortly after the layoffs back in October, they're like, this wasn't enough. Like we have to do more.
They said that. They said that there probably will be more layoffs. They said that in October. The thing that makes it more tone deaf is that one of the senior members of staff in a meeting supposedly asked, this happened last time at the last layoffs. This happened, and I think we've mentioned it before. They asked him specifically in a meeting, why can't like the seniors and the C-suite have cuts, like have pay cuts, and he said we're not that sort of company.
Right.
That's tone deaf as well.
Yep.
And it's immense. Should we do like a time? Like, should we do that and then move on to the initial reaction to what people were saying, and then go on to like more of the other stuff, like the actual confirmed things. Like that was, we initially found, they posted that fucking twab that wasn't a twab of.
How everyone found out was they posted the twab saying there is no twab and we fired everybody. Right, that was like
There's no twab because the person who writes it is gone. No, I think they're still there. So that happened, and everyone freaked out. Right. So, but what was your guys' initial reaction to reading that?
So I was like, I was at work when this is all going down, and it was kind of a busy day, and so I wasn't checking my phone, and I finally kind of sat down later in the afternoon and saw it was like, oh, TWAB is canceled this week or whatever. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And like, I started reading that post, and it's like, in light of everything that happened. And then it's just, I kind of read I didn't like fully piece everything together. All I just saw was this wave of comments that just said, fuck Pete Parsons, like over and over and over again. I was like, what happened? And then I like stepped back and then opened up like the Bungie app and saw the posting of like more layoffs, and was like, oh, okay. And then kind of saw that for like 2 hours, basically people were diving in all this stuff and had come to the conclusion that all of this was Pete Parsons' fault, which I don't necessarily agree with, but we'll get to that part of the discussion at some point as well. So yeah, I was like 3 or 4 hours. Did we lose Matt?
I think we did lose this video.
Yeah, your video was like
frozen, and
I look like I've been thrown off my chair.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah. Hold on. That's quite amusing. Hold on.
So where I was
it exotic?
On the where I was on the day of reckoning, I was at work as well, but it wasn't a busy day for me at work. So I was like doing a little bit of research. I was like, what the hell is happening? I was definitely surprised, and it, especially just based on the timing, of all times. They just dropped. It's been like a month or two after they just dropped what I think is one of the best expansions in the history of the game, in my opinion. They dropped that. Everyone loves it. And then, we're laying off a ton of the company. We're canceling Destiny 3, blah, 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 blah. There's a bunch of other stuff that's happening. And, I mean, it was kind of shocking, and it sucks because, it's just another just hit to like the creative job market, I guess, which is just in shambles right now. It seems like, and it's not, as someone who works in like the video content creation industry, kind of not, adjacent. It's not game development or anything, but it's not exactly
media, entertainment media.
Exactly.
It's just gone.
Yeah,
right.
It was. It made me think about my own job and my own prospects. And I'm like, it did not fill me with hope. So definitely sucks. And my heart goes out to all those people who are affected by it, because I mean that is just the shittiest way to be congratulated on a job well done, is to be let off.
And it's the trust thing of going, well, you made it. An expansion does badly, you get laid off. An expansion does amazing, you get laid off.
Yep.
Where's the trust? There is no trust there.
Exactly. And it's like, okay, so no matter what kind of job I do, I'm just fucked regardless. Pardon my French, but like, really?
Well, that's the thing, is now the people currently working there, they're going to be trying their asses off. And the people who have left have said this. They're like, the people who are still there, they're trying and they love this game and they put their heart and soul into it. But now they're going to be sitting there fucking panicking every time they're going to work, because they think, fuck, am I going to get...
Right. Yeah. And not to mention, like, there were layoffs not that long ago. How long were the other layoffs?
Right.
It's like, man, when does it end? And it definitely, like you said, mistrust in the the higher ups who are mishandling things to the point where they have to lay people off. Like what is happening where you have to lay people off this often and in the midst of such supposed success? Where did these mistakes happen, and why do they keep happening?
Well, you also have to assume that after something like this, even if you are still around, like if you made the cut, so to speak, you're not going to want to stay in this, right? This is two layoffs in the span of 7-8 months, like, and everything you're kind of hearing. And I'm sure some of these people are hearing things, I don't know how compartmentalized they are there, but I'm sure like you're probably just as glued into whatever Jason Schreier is posting right now, even when you work at Bungie and you go, shit, I didn't know that was a thing, or you didn't know that was happening, or and so it's like it's got to be at this point you're just like, I don't want to be part of this anymore. So I can only imagine like you're also going, and I know the market is like not great right now, but there's always those people that are just like, I'm not going to be here. I don't want to be here for any more of this. I don't want to see another set of coworkers packing up their boxes.
Well, yeah,
and
it's your job, especially if you've got it's the same for everyone. It's shit. Like, say if you rely on that to feed your family, and obviously people rely on it to feed themselves, but if you're like the only person making money in the family or whatever, you're fucked. Like, what are you going to do?
Right.
And you're not going to sit there and think, well, I can't rely and trust these people that I'm going to keep my job.
Right.
So I'm going to find somewhere else.
Right. Exactly. So I can only imagine that, like, this is maybe the end of these layoffs. Like at this point, I can't believe we're kind of entertaining the idea of like, well, it could be more. But like, I think we're going to see more people leave.
I'm going to put it out there and say, I reckon people will leave. I reckon there'll be layoffs after Marathon comes out, whenever the fuck that is.
Yeah. And it sucks because, I mean, I can't imagine being in that position where, it's one thing to get fired because you like messed up royally, and it's another thing to get laid off because your boss made a major fuck up, and now you have to get that just feels. I mean, layoffs are never good, and
the thing that drives me nuts is partly how the community reacted to it as well.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that it's weird. There's some people who don't give a shit, and there's some people who care, but for the wrong reasons. And it really confuses me. Like I saw so many people, and they weren't just like people being like, they're not actually a part of the Destiny community. Like I saw people in the Destiny community who have been there, like, good, you can finally die, and it's like, what?
Well, yeah, why would you wish this on anyone? Yeah.
I mean, that's right. The game is, I know it's like fucking bleak, and we're gonna have to talk about it. The game's not going anywhere.
Right.
Like and we've said this, and I will continue to say this. They don't have a source of income now. Any other source of income other than Destiny.
Right.
That's it. Right. They can't afford to let the game go. If Marathon does amazingly well, I can see them putting Destiny way on the back burner. I mean, as it's clearly evident, they've put it on the back burner till Marathon's coming out because it's their game that they're trying to finish and come out the door. But especially if Marathon does badly or just like subpar average, they're gonna shove everything into Destiny again,
right?
Because that's where their audience is, that's where their money is. They can't, especially now with all these incubation projects gone. So what? Meta was cancelled, but that was cancelled a while back. Apparently,
yeah, that was a while ago. I think.
Right. That was a live service game,
right?
So that's why that was cancelled. Gummy Bears was moved to So what they're doing is they're moving one of the projects to Sony, and Sony are taking those people who are making that game and making their own studio with those people.
Right. And that's like 40-something people, right? Or 30-something people.
So, and that's Gummy Bears, and that's reportedly a MOBA Smash Bros-like game.
Which, whatever that means,
I don't know how that would... Because I was like, that could be interesting, but I'm like, how would you do a MOBA that's Smash Bros? How does that work?
Right.
I'm curious as to how much influence Sony had on this whole situation. Because we know Sony has been fairly hands-on, thing. Or, well, I mean...
Really?
They claim to be hands-off, but, like, I'm curious. They've been in the picture for a while now. And I'm wondering, like, how much they influence these executive decisions and stuff like that.
Well, that may have been a 6-month, like, I'm kind of trying to do the math in my head, right? If the layoffs happen in October, maybe that's when Sony kind of like started to be more of a presence, right? Like the layoffs happen, Sony's like, all right, well, you had your shot. We're going to be involved now. And then 6 months, and in that time they do, 6 months worth of observation. So that would have been November, December, January, February, March, April. Call it April, May. So like right before Final Shape launches. So that again, that leads us to like 2 or 3 months.
2 months.
Right. So maybe 3 months ago they're like, all right, you guys are lame. You're doing more layoffs. This isn't working. These incubation projects.
It's like when Blizzard went and Activision went into Microsoft, there were layoffs. Not only were they just cutting jobs anyway, but also because there's going to be crossover in these two companies. Right. And so there's going to be people, and I imagine this is the case only for a certain number of people, I don't think everyone, where Sony have gone, well, you can outsource this to us, this certain specific job.
Right.
This person can do it here, get rid of your person.
Right.
And so I don't think that's everyone. I don't think that's the main reason this happened, but I speculate that that was a number of people losing their job was because of that.
Right. And it probably things like dissolving the one group of people into the Gummy Bear studio and then Sony taking those other 150 odd people, like all of that that all feels like part of a survey that they did of the company and goes, well, okay, so and so to be clear, like to kind of finish off what you guys were saying. So so the Gummy Bear thing, Matter was canceled at some point, and then there was this other mysterious thing that we kept hearing about called Payback, which, as it was revealed, is not Destiny 3, and that was never actually in the works. So there's never ever been a D3
which
in incubation.
People reported when this came out. People reported that I'm not going to name names. That Payback was D3.
Right.
Or people, there was a leak a while back that's saying that Payback was an overhaul of Destiny 2. Like it's like an engine update.
Right.
Which even confuses me more, the fact of that leak where someone leaked Prismatic and other things, got them right, but said that D3 was in development. So that confuses me, unless what they heard about Payback to them, they
misinterpreted. Right.
yeah, this is the thing: is when people leak things, they could be leaking to people who don't play the game or know anything about the game. So to that person who's being the information is being fed to, they don't know what is and what isn't like a thing. So they could hear. So as we now found out, Payback was a spin-off of Destiny.
Right.
That was a third-person game that was an exploration, bit like Genshin, where you would play as characters from the Destiny universe. I don't know if it would have been Gacha. I kind of probably think it would have been. And, you know, you play as Zavali, you play as Cade, you play as Shaxx, and you explore, I don't know, say like a Cosmodrome or something. And it said it was like you'd fight world bosses and do puzzles and shit like that. And that sounds really cool. But it was not D3.
Right.
So that's what I mean. Is some people could have heard that and gone, "Oh, it's D3." You know?
Right. Or I could hear them being like giving the description of Payback is like it's using like an upgraded version of D2, and then that's how they interpret it as, oh, we're upgrading D2 with an engine. Oh, that must be what Payback is, right? Like you said, it might be, you know, and who knows how these things kind of like filter out, right? If like I'm assuming it's personal email correspondence, but who knows if it, you know, how many people it travels through and what kind of game of telephone it plays before it gets to one of those Destiny leak subreddits, you know, and then you like, how did this turn into this, you know? And it's like,
I could leak stuff from a upcoming TV show to you, and then you tell people, but you have no concept of that show at all, and you're like, and so, you know, some crossover things, you know, but
well, that's just to go off on a little tangent. That's just something that's always kind of bothered me when some of these bigger things report on Destiny news and get critical information wrong. And then that disseminates, and I can see it because I have buddies that used to play this game and that don't anymore, and they go, oh, I heard that it's like this and this, and they're like 3 degrees separated from what the actual truth is. And it's like, well, yeah, of course, like you'd be pissed off if that's what actually happened, but that's not even remotely close to what happened. And it's frustrating. I
think that's just a modern like gaming journalism problem. But it happened so much in this instance where it was immediately reported that D3 was canned. Right. So the whole community was just went fucking ballistic. Right. And had like an utter meltdown. Way over proportion, which and as I said this before we recorded, I've never seen people react so viciously and toxic to the news of stuff being cancelled and layoffs than in this community. Is insane compared to like, it's not on the same level, but I compared it to like how the reaction of how angry people were when Blizzard cancelled the Overwatch PvE and the talent tree stuff. It was the same level, though I'd say they're completely different sort of things, because one was a promise that was cancelled, and then this was a behind the scenes thing was cancelled that you didn't know about. But the reaction that people gave and how angry they were, and then like sort of were slinging shit at people was just I don't and as I said, content creators really don't help themselves at all. Right. I really don't understand. Like, we do this for Destiny. Obviously, we want the game to do well, and we don't sit here and spew shite that's going to hurt. Like, we talk about controversial things and we talk about things we don't like, but we don't sit here and spew shit that's not relevant in terms of like, it's just not true, or it's over the top, exaggerated. And so many content creators just, I get it, it's content creation, but they just jumped on it and made the situation worse. Like, your livelihood is based on how well this game does. A lot of these people can't pivot to other content. We can't suddenly go, right, we're going to talk about Diablo now. I know you'd like to, Rob, but
I'd be okay with that.
I do.
Hey, the new season comes out next week and it looks pretty awesome. So
well, like, I'm not going to suddenly change it to like fucking King's Row radio, you know, for Overwatch, but like, it's not. You can't just. And a lot of content creators, they can't pivot. Some can because they're turning more into like generalized content creators, right? Like, some people just, the way they reported on this just made it worse.
Right. Yeah,
like,
that's fair.
The community is now in it's Jova situation. It was like a week ago. It was, we're so back. Destiny is like it's the best state it's been in like forever.
Right.
And the community was happy. A few complaints about episodes, but now it's back in the it's Jova. The whole game's dead. It's fucked. We have no more game anymore.
Right.
And it partly their. I think part of the problem is content creators reporting how they reported on it.
Yeah,
I think
one
part of the reason.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh no, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I think like there's obviously the getting stuff out for clicks and the drama always sells. That's why this is nothing. This is nothing against Keemstar. I am completely neutral to him, but like someone like him, completely his entire existence on the internet subsists off of drama, right? Because people feed that so well, and you know what? Good for him. Good for exploiting and taking advantage of that kind of like weakness in people, like but I think that's what it is, right? It's this thing comes out, all these people are getting laid off, like obviously someone's going to click on this video and watch it, and then it immediately goes into speculation mode, which is fun. But to be honest, I thought we were almost maybe going to hold off another week on doing this podcast because I thought maybe we should like wait for a little bit more dust to settle. But as Map and I were kind of talking before you got on, Scotty, like once that Schreier article came out, I was like, all right, I think we have enough information we can talk about this without being like too just like completely in the woods.
A lot of it, there was people who leaked stuff or had insider information about some of this stuff. And some of it, as the days went on, was just not true. Which is blatantly, it was like first reported that Payback was Destiny 3.
Right.
So that's why people were so pissed off that it was cancelled. And it was reported from people who don't really have ties to the community, which is fine because it's news stuff. You don't have to play the game to report on the news of it. But it was just so over the top reaction to it, and it was just not true. But now, because of it's the initial reaction, you can go back and clarify, which is good. People do that. I'm not saying they haven't, but because of that, now we have this whole fallout of. There are people who aren't as clued in who have gone, well, the whole thing's fucked. I'm gone. Right. E3's cancelled.
Which I think. So I'll just say this one thing, Scotty. I know we keep. On one level, On one level, I am finally relieved that we know one way or the other that there was no D3, and because I know we did that episode like a month or two ago, and I still take the firm stance. I didn't want that. I know. There's a lot of like. People like this game needs to be fixed in monumental ways, and we can talk about that in a bit. But I think now that we know there never was a D3 intended to come out, like I'm glad we don't have to have that conversation of like when's VOG going to be brought back for the third time. So like I'll just say like I'm just glad that we had a definitive answer that like Payback was not D3, it was not an update to D2, it was just its own separate thing. And, that sucks that people were working on that because, we can also talk about the whole, I was going to say Kevin Smith, not Luke Smith. I don't, that would have been a blunder. That Luke Smith and Mark Noseworthy are now no longer working there. And that's another one of those things. People saw that and immediately were like, oh, they got laid off. And it's like, no, they just kind of like stepped away when all of this happened because there was nothing for them to work on anymore. But ultimately, like, I don't know. I'm like, it was like a sigh of relief because it's like now we know definitively we don't have to speculate anymore that, D3 got canned. How far did it get? Oh, it would have been cool to get a demo. Like, no, there never was a D3. Like, because I feel like they were pretty transparent about that a long time ago that they basically were like, we're just going to keep updating D2. And I know people want a D3 and people have made good cases for why they wanted a D3 in terms of like updating the engine. And like, I still think that those things could manifest in some way in D2 in some substantial, important way without needing to swap to a D3. Because I think, I don't know, So I'm really, say what you're going to say, Scotty.
Oh, wait, yeah. Well, just going back to, Matt, what you're talking about with the content creator, like, outrage and the reaction from the community as compared to, like, something like Overwatch PvE getting canceled. I think part of it is just because when Overwatch's PvE mode got canceled, with all due respect, Overwatch 2 was nothing special to begin with when it dropped, right? It was already kind of like bad. And I think so. I think the sentiment. Also, people hate Blizzard. Especially
And
after
it's fun to hate
Blizzard,
Blizzard too, right? Like
exactly right. And the whole like, oh, Blizzard is full of rapists and pedophiles. And
is that
shit.
so? Is that true anymore?
Yeah.
Like because Microsoft bought.
Regardless of whether it is or not, like that's
From
the
my
narrative,
understanding
right.
and from what happened, it seems that they got rid of those people.
That's what I thought.
And-
Yeah. But at the
and-
same time, like that's the narrative, right? It's like that's always going to be a stain on their brand forever, right? And so I think it's a lot of people just love hating on Blizzard and Overwatch and stuff. So when Overwatch PvE got canceled, it was more like, I mean, I don't want to say no one cared, but like it's like, yeah, good. Like I hope it.
Yeah, it was totally like a Schadenfreude kind of thing, right? Like,
yeah. But that was that, and that's the thing that shocked me. I was like, why were people reacting like that to this? That was
Well, I think people were I think there was more of an outrage with this because, like we've been talking about, the Destiny 3 rumors, being a thing that was circulated, and also because Final Shape was good, and I think also just in general the Destiny community, at least online, the vocal minority or whatever, is very prone to catastrophizing, so to speak.
Slinging.
Yeah. And they've always been very I don't want to say we've always been very vocal about things, very very passionate community, we'll say.
Oh yeah,
I think that's just part of the culture, I feel like, to just lose our shit.
But the other thing I don't understand, right? And I'm gonna say it's only a small number of people, and I've seen this. I've played this game, right? But a certain game that came out recently, fuck me, their reaction to this was terrible, and it reminds me of like, I was like, oh my god, it reminds me of like, I'm not grouping everyone into it, but those really toxic people in the TF2 fandom who hate everything that isn't TF2 reminded me of that. It was like, good, the game's dead. Come and play this game instead.
Right.
It wasn't TF2 the game that I'm on about. It's like, why? Like, I don't understand. It just confuses me. Like, who's gonna if someone's upset that I don't think this is accurate at all or true. If someone's upset because they think their game's dead and they're not going to make content anymore, if you insult them and the game they like, they're not going to want to come and play the game.
It's like not the stance you want to take.
No. But I don't. I mean, we can go back to it later, but it's not the end. I'm going to sound like Luke Smith, even though he's gone. It's not the end of Destiny, man. It's like,
I don't think so. I think ultimately they.
You weren't so sure on that one.
Well, no, I think they did what they. I don't want to put it in the context of like they needed to trim the fat, because like people losing their jobs is terrible, but it sounds like they maybe shouldn't have hired as many people as they did, right? And I like
this is the frustration, and this is the frustration of the people of why did you hire me if you were going to like
exactly
like,
if you're just going to get rid of me,
like
right.
What the problem they had, and this is what Jason Schreier said in his article, they described a company that grew too fast and tried to develop too many projects at once, spreading resources too thin rather than prioritizing its chief money-making Destiny 2. Right. So, and it sounds a bit like what they're going to do now, and this is just off of, observation. This is not facts. This is just my opinion. They're going to get Marathon out. They're going to focus most of their stuff on Marathon because that's supposed to come out next year, apparently. Right. I don't know if that's going to happen. If Marathon does really, really well, I can see them not caring as much about Destiny. However, if it does fine, subpar, or bad, I hope it doesn't do bad just for the people working on its sake. If it does bad, they're going to fuck Destiny. Everything's going to go back into Destiny. Right. So it sounds really awful, and I don't want to say it, and I'm not saying it in a positive way because this is not like the outcome that we want as a community, for people working on it, but it might be a net positive, and that sounds really cold. But I don't like what they've now confirmed is that it's not going into maintenance mode, but we're going to be changing how we're getting content. We're not getting a big expansion. We're getting a Shadowkeep sized expansion at one part of the year. You get a season, and then you get a smaller expansion that's free. and then you get a season, and then you get the expansion again.
Right.
People played Shadowkeep and played that year.
Right.
Seasons are better than the seasons that we got with Shadowkeep.
Right.
I kind of don't mind that. Like, one of the people who got made redundant said they're working on a raid. It's really good. She wasn't. She's not just saying that to be like. Why would she just say that because she worked at Bungie? Like, she's angry.
Right.
Like, she's wanted. You know, she's going to be supporting the people, and she's going to be honest. But she seemed confident in the raid that they were making that's coming out next. Like, we're still getting a raid. We're still getting dungeons. We're still getting this. I like playing the campaigns, and I hope there's still story stuff to it, but they said there's going to be less of that.
Right.
But how many of the core community actually care about the campaign? I know Lightfall got shit. I know, yeah, I do, but I know Lightfall get like thrown in the shit for its campaign. But like the grand scheme of things, if the campaign's good and the raid is shit, like what's going to do more damage, sort of thing.
Right. Yeah. What's got more replay value and staying power? You're absolutely right. I think to kind of go back to the like, I think the part that like hurts is, and I don't know if there's like a comprehensive list of like people that were working on things and now are no longer working there. But I think the thing that sucks is you have all these people that moved away from Destiny to work on these other incubation projects and then got laid off because their job has been probably replaced by somebody else. And it's like, you know, we've kind of talked about this with like the marathon discussion or like during the original layoff thing, where it's like, if they just kind of kept the core team, you know, when people sort of highlight certain eras of Destiny that did really, really well, like Taken King or Forsaken. And then those people, like, who's the guy that kind of started the incubation for Marathon? I always forget his name.
Christopher Barrett.
Christopher Barrett, right? Like, he moved off of Destiny. Is he even working there anymore? Like, that's the kind of stuff. Like,
he's not on
Marathon anymore.
Right. Okay. So is he on Destiny again, or like Luke Smith? Right. He moved away from working on Destiny. And I'm not saying like he was in the Destiny. He was in charge of the Destiny franchise. With
right.
Knows where.
But it's like now we've kind of lost critical core people. That I would say it's like I still go back to that. I think we were talking about it during the original layoff thing. Like, would this have happened if they, or could this all have been avoided if they weren't working on Marathon and these other incubation projects? And then when I made that statement, right, and like now it's kind of obvious that was a problem, and now it's like the company has kind of gotten to a point of no return where these people are going to want to come back or they're not able to come back. And it's like, is the game going to be able to recover in a way where it's like, I'm not saying the people that are working on it now are like inferior to the previous people, but it's like, I think a big element right now that we're dealing with is like trust in what they're going to be capable of producing in the future. And if we don't know who's steering the ship other than Tyson Green, which I'm still hopeful for that. Like, we haven't seen anything that he's kind of like put out as like what he's been in charge of, right? We're still seeing like Joe Blackburn's kind of like residual, which I think is fantastic and all that. But it's like, I think that kind of is also part of the uncertainty right now. So we have no idea like what that core team is, because you just hear of all these people that were put on other projects and now that project is scrapped. And so they got scrapped. And like, that's just kind of a shitty feeling, because it's like, you know, maybe if you just left them on Destiny and but you didn't try to make so many ambitious decisions, the game might be in a much, much better situation than
can you imagine? I know this is like no point in thinking of this at all, because you're just going to make yourself sad. But can you imagine if they hadn't done any of these incubation projects at all, and it was just Destiny? Right. How theoretically how great, or maybe how bad too, right? Like, it could be. I don't like it, but that could be Fortnite level popular. Like that. I kind of don't want the game to be that popular, because it just attracts more shit people. But I'm not gatekeeping, but you know, I just want to get away from as many shit people in the community as there possibly can be. But can you imagine if it had like the numbers and you'd get like 2 raids a year, like maybe even more? Like, can you imagine? Right. Yeah. Right. Because we would have had fucking free transmog when D2 launched. Right. You know. Well, and you know, going back to the Chris Barrett thing, I'm not saying like he's the one at fault, right? But like,
the last thing he worked on was Forsaken, and then after Forsaken, we got Shadowkeep, right? And I'm not saying he's the root cause of that, but you kind of like in retrospect,
the main thing of that is we had Hyman Studios and,
right,
and the other actors
right, and we
working on.
and we broke, or I keep saying we, but it's like I do feel like as part of this community we're allowed to say we, right? I've invested
exactly.
I've invested over $1,000 in this franchise, you know, like I feel like I'm allowed to have I almost feel like I'm a shareholder in some capacity.
I don't want to say how many hours I've invested in.
Exactly.
Saying 1,000 is the bottom line,
right?
Because I
well, I'm talking about dollars, not time. Time I don't even want to talk about, but dollars, right? Like over the span of 10 years.
Hold on. I didn't buy. All right, the first time I actually paid for it individually myself, because I was bought the others for like Christmas and birthdays and stuff, was D2. So yeah, D2 was the first time I my own money, you know.
Got it.
But yeah, I imagine it's probably like $1,000 for most people.
Right.
Like, my friend bought Shadowkeep and Forsaken for like £2 the other day, and I'm sitting there thinking, oh my god, I spent like 80 quid, 70 quid on the pre-order for those. Like, it's 4 years ago, like it's whatever.
Right. Well, but like I'm thinking, so like I bought the white PS4 when it came out with that came with Destiny, right? So I got that, and then I paid for Dark Below and House of Wolves, and then a buddy of mine got a PlayStation 4, so I bought him Dark Below and House of Wolves so he could be like caught up with me. And then I bought Taken King and Rise of Iron, and that was all on PlayStation. And then when D2 came out and was terrible during that Curse of Osiris era, I went back and bought. That's the D2 PS4. I'm talking about the D1 PS4. That's just white.
This is the D1. Yeah.
No, the D1 didn't have is that the King? Oh, that's the Taken King. Yeah, I had the original. Just like it's just white. Oh.
This is broken.
That's unfortunate.
It was going out of the bin anyway, but the fan was terrible on it. But something on the motherboard just decided it wanted to melt.
Yeah, probably a capacitor or something blew on it. That's always like the typical. But like, yeah, I have bought like every expansion, and then because at one point I played on PC, I like had to rebuy some of the expansions on there. So like, yeah, I've easily dumped. And then all the stupid merch and memorabilia and all that, like,
oh yeah,
like I feel like I'm allowed to say we at this point. Like I'm gonna take that entitlement.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, if all of these things hadn't been done, it begs the question, like, if they had stayed on some path starting from like Forsaken, like there was probably a critical point when they started to work on these. I'm even gonna throw Marathon under that bus of like, if they didn't work on Marathon. Now that being said, some of these people, and I can totally get this, like, you know, maybe Christopher Barrett got to a point in his career where he's like, I'm tired of working on Destiny. I've been on this for like 5 years. If I don't get to work on something else, I'm just going to go leave a company where I can work on something else, right? So he may have left Forsaken era anyway.
They're going to have hired people who hadn't have worked on Destiny, and they've just been brought on board for, like, say with Gummy Bears, like the description of that being a MOBA Smash Bros game. I doubt many developers of Destiny moved to that, because they're just completely different game. I mean, I could be wrong, but I feel like those people were hired specifically to make that game, and then were moved elsewhere because of that talent. You know, they'd worked on other projects,
so but that's still
that part.
That's still resources, though, that I would say if you want to like map out like a decline in certain like things in the Destiny franchise, like at a certain point we stopped getting map packs as like released with expansions, right? It used to be every time when Taken King came out, we'd get like 5 or 6 new maps or something, right? Like
Osiris and Warmind. I mean, they were probably all made around the same time and just spread out, but like even then, like we got maps with Forsaken, and then Shadowkeep we got Fragment, which was terrible. I hate that map, even though I got a 50 kill streak on it. I hate it. But then we just didn't get anything for, what was it, like over a year? Right.
And so you know, it's like you still, and this is all going to be, you know, argued to the end of time, but it still begs the question. It's like those resources could have gone to instead of gummy bears or whatever, or marathon or whatever, right? Those resources to hiring people could have gone to making maps and could have gone to incubating more things within the Destiny game. And instead they went elsewhere. And it's like, and I feel like at the end of the day, you can kind of point to, well, that's part of the declining player base, right? Was like, at a certain point, the PvP community was going to bow out because it's like, well, we got new maps, or we don't have any new maps. So like, why am I going to stick with, right?
Fragment.
We got Fragment, right?
2 years, and then Disjunction.
Right.
It was like, oh. No.
Right. So it's like, yeah, maybe they're not necessarily like, yeah, those people were hired explicitly to work on a MOBA game, but those are still resources that Destiny produced and didn't go back into Destiny. And that's
that money could have gone into a PvP strike team.
Right.
And another thing now is that apparently, because of how well received the PvP strike team was,
right
now the company has been formatted to just a bunch of little strike teams.
Right.
Because of the sort of how it sounded to the... So I think it was in the Jason Schreier article, or the Paul Sassy one, that now that, because they heard that, a lot of the senior and the C-suite were like, well, people really like the sound of this strike team. We'll make other strike teams. We'll make the narrative strike team. We'll make the patrol strike team. And it's like, well, unless you talk about it, and the only reason people were happy about it is because it was PvP stuff.
Right. Well, and there was a string of continuous communication. As soon as they announced that team, it was like, it felt like every week or every other week we were getting, at least once a month, some kind of like updates to the sandbox. We're getting a map pack. Hey, we're doing changes to how special ammo works. Like consistent, like, hey, we're using metrics and data to make decisions. Here you can actually physically and tangibly see the things that we are doing. It wasn't just like...
Scotty, your sorry to interrupt, your face is like the Destiny community right now. You're just like...
It pretty much sums it up.
Yeah. Like, I don't... It's like, it was the, oh, fuck, not this again.
But I
am thinking...
Yeah.
Oh.
Just like, decisions were made. That's it.
Yeah.
Like you manage, like we said this before Final Shape came out. How is Bungie and like how is Destiny going to improve its reputation in the gaming industry?
Right.
How is they going to improve its reputation? Final Shape was received so well, you know.
Right.
People like, I might not come back because I haven't played it for so long, but I hear that the DLC is amazing. You know, maybe they'll come back when they hear that the new onboarding stuff, you know, say, oh, look, there's new player onboarding. Oh, I heard the Final Shape was amazing. I'll come and play the game. You have got rid of that. That is gone.
Right.
That it is now, Destiny is dead. That is now the mainstream gaming sort of thought process. You know, like
that's the narrative around
it. Destiny is dying. Bungie killed
well,
it.
But at the same time, I mean, when has it not been like that? I feel like that's been the narrative around Destiny for.
I mean,
at least like 7 years
since Taken King,
bad.
basically.
Yeah, they're like, oh, Destiny's dead,
right?
And then
I know, but like now that this has come out, it's not just a meme and people who aren't in the loop. It's now just the general gaming space has gone, well, Bungie have killed Destiny because they're not doing big expansions anymore.
Right.
That has come back.
Right.
I mean, even in the community itself, there are now people like, well, I've had my 10 years, I'm leaving. Like, not they weren't before, but now that this news has come out, they're like, I'm not fucking anymore. You know, I'm gone.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of like little mini factors I think that also contribute to this, right? Where it's like, okay, we got to the end of this Light and Dark saga. They also haven't really said what's next. I would say.
No.
Yeah, I think you could kind of soften the blow of this a little bit to go, you know, we're not calling it Light and Dark, but you know, like Frontiers, like maybe they're hoping that was enough of a carrot on a stick to kind of keep us running when they announced Frontiers.
I mean, I felt like it was interesting, like just
sure.
the year itself, but I think for a lot of people,
But I think there's a. Probably this is an opportune time to maybe do a little bit of damage control. And unfortunately, maybe they don't know what Frontiers completely is, right? All they have is that code word. But it's like, if hypothetically, if they went out and said something like, we're leaving the solar system and the next shift is going to be visiting, you know, a whole new set of planets and new worlds, and, you know, we're gonna take the fight to their side, you know, it's like, and just, even at this point, if they just tease some concept art, like that,
Just
it
something.
might
The
go a
thing
long way
that,
to just like get people
I think so.
somewhat on a morale.
I think when they showed that thing off, I don't even think they know what they probably have an idea.
Exactly.
But
I don't
when
think
they
they
were
do.
showing off, is it Heretic, the final episode?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so.
Or Heresy.
Yeah.
Heresy, or one
Yeah.
or two. All of that was just concept art.
Right.
That's how early this is in development.
Right.
So, or at least that they were ready to show off. So, you know, that, I mean, I know we're talking about incubation projects, but that you know, payback, Frontiers could be in its incubation stage. Like
Right.
when they showed, I mean, those videos and those sorts of things, they're going to be made months in advance. Like, Luke Smith was at the start of the final shape prismatic reveal.
Right.
He's not there anymore, so that was probably made like maybe a month or two before.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I
I
don't.
wonder how relevant is. This is not the end of Destiny 2, and this is certainly not the end, you know, of the Destiny franchise. You know,
Right.
I wonder how much of that is staying.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, no, it you just. There's always a question of what the lag time is between when they make those videos, when they come out, how far they have seasons in advance, how far the expansions are made in advance, and like we just don't know these things, and it's probably somewhat variable for every.
I'd say a month at least.
Probably.
I'd say a month at least.
But-
going off of what they've said before and what things have changed, and just like, yeah.
Right. But I think I was making jokes in our clan yesterday of like, in our clan Discord of like, this would be, if they're working on it, this would be the time to announce that Wrath of the Machine is coming back. Like, even if all it came out was just a tweet that was like, we heard you guys like Siva. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
That the number of people that would at least come back for that, even if we know it's not coming out for 6 months, right? Or
One
even
of my friends
like,
who hasn't played since Forsaken, sort of early D2, said if Wrath of the Machine came back,
Right.
like King Trollvog, he would play it. Like,
Right.
He would download it and play it.
right.
Like, yeah.
Well, there's people in the
Well,
D1.
maybe that raid they're working
Right.
on that person said maybe that's Wrath of the
Right.
Machine, and they just didn't know.
Right. But there are still a large number of people that like explicitly play D1 because to them Wrath of the Machine was like pinnacle of raiding, and that nothing that's come out since then is still like comes close to that. So if you were to translate that to D2, I think you'd get some D1 lurkers coming out of the woodwork. And like if that is something you're working on, now is the time. Like I think you would completely nuke ill sentiment for at least a while. Like you'd get people so hyped for that. Because I think that even kind of carried when they
Parsons heard you, and he's now going to put a Siva bundle of shaders in the Eververse store
I know.
for 2,000 bright.
I know.
For silver.
Right.
So well done.
Thank you. Well, so you bring up an interesting topic point, because this is something we haven't really talked about, but is how did Eververse play a role in this? Like, we'll never see those numbers, and I think a lot of Bungie employees never see those numbers, and that's probably why Jason Schreier will never see those numbers and announce it. But it's like, it begs the question of like, I hate using this term, did like the whales finally like dry up and stop dumping money into this? Like did maybe
I don't think it's that. I don't.
But I don't know.
I think Eververse goes. I think that's one of the things that goes back into Destiny. I think is Eververse is definitely something that goes. I reckon half of it goes into Destiny, the other half goes into like
into his card collection.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
He's an Arc Strider main, so I think we should nerf Arc Striders.
Is he
He's an Arc Strider main?
It's in his Twitter bio, yeah.
Oh my god. That's
explains so much.
That does explain so
kidding, I'm
much. No one plays Arc Strider. Okay, as someone who plays Hunter all the time, no one plays
you can dodge so well.
Strider.
That's why you can dodge so well in the Super. He's dodging all of the fucking shit that's being thrown at him now, all the way down to the fucking car dealership. That's why the Super lasts so long.
He's using Raiden Flex.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah, regarding the Pete Parsons thing, like I definitely, I know we kind of talk about this. There's definitely the tone deaf aspect of this, and you know, I don't know what their C-suite structure is. Like, it ultimately, is he the one that made these decisions to put money into these things, or is there a whole board of people? And I know, and ultimately, like in the structure of a business, in this kind of like system, the CEO is the one who's supposed to take the fall when stuff like this happens. And like, you know, it's like, but it's none of us have been there in those boardroom meetings and know, was he the one that was like, we need more projects because we're trying to sell to Sony, we need to make ourselves a good, or like, was he the more conservative one that's like, well, you know, we're burning a lot, you know? It's like, and that's, I'm not trying to defend him. Like I'm just saying we don't know.
The only thing I will defend him on is please don't wish death on people.
Yeah, like
I don't like him.
I hate that we have to say that,
but yeah, there anymore. But there's a difference between saying he probably shouldn't be the CEO of Bungie and wishing him that he got flattened by his car collection. Don't wish death upon people.
I think you broke Scotty with that one. Yeah, that goes without saying, but I hate that we have to make that statement. But yeah, it is.
I didn't see that. I know. Made that up, but no, I did see a lot of people like. What I did.
That was my burner account.
Yeah.
The only thing I did find funny, and it is not funny, but someone was like, the only thing Pete Parsons listened to was the people round in Shadowkeep saying that they should sunset Luke Smith. That was the only thing I was like, okay, that was quite. But what was quite funny was it's the same people. I know, obviously, the community is not one voice and there's different opinions, but it was some of the same people who were wishing that Luke Smith wasn't there, was now upset that he wasn't there now.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, a year ago you hated him and you blamed him for everything.
Right.
I think people just like having someone to blame.
Right.
It just makes things easier for them.
Yeah.
Well, it's
just to have a face to make fun of.
Before he's gone, before he's gone and he's gone to a different company, I hope it wasn't due to stress, but I will congratulate Luke Smith on the weight he lost. The difference of him in Taken King Luke Smith to now was like insane. I hope it wasn't due to stress, man. I hope. Yeah,
it wasn't the constant working at Bungie for the last 10 years being what caused it. Yeah, that was quite shocking because I do always kind of remember him being a larger person.
He was quite a big dude.
Yeah, and then seeing that last video, I'm like, Jesus, good for him.
He was quite gaunt, and I was like, I remember he appeared. I think it was around. After people first noticed with the Beyond Light reveal, where it was him and Mark Noseworthy sitting there chatting on the.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, like I don't. But I think, should we talk a bit about Payback? I know we mentioned it before.
I mean, it was such
so. It would have taken elements from popular games such as Warframe and Genshin Impact. Would you guys have played it?
No. I don't
see Gacha game.
Yeah.
Don't give them ideas. They'll start another incubation project.
No, because every time I'd play it, I'd be like, wow, these resources could have been put into, right? It's the same thing we talked about with Marathon, where like how shitty it felt and still feels that in that Marathon reveal, they're like, we're doing dedicated servers and all this stuff. It's like the thing that like
it was really tone deaf. It again was really tone deaf.
Where it's like, wow, like the thing that's earning you money, the thing that's like been consistently the thing that has actually been supporting this and the one thing you can rely on, and you cannot give it the time of day. And even if it is something that's like integrating dedicated servers into Destiny might be impossible or difficult. Like I'm not saying that, but it's just like, yeah, the tone deaf where it's like the fucking audacity to start off the Marathon announcement with that is like, I still think the biggest bitch slap we've gotten in a really, really long time. And Grenader Jake did this whole long rant about it of like, how terrible does it feel being someone who's like, someone like him or UMAP, where your main time is spent on PvP in this game, and then it's just like, God, like how, you know, it's just like that kind of stuff just will forever rile me up, and it's like, yeah, no wonder shit's just like happening all the time. Like, I don't know, it is kind of like a how dare you sometimes.
I'm gonna bring melee whiffing into the real world. So I can't train at the minute due to an injury, but when I go back to training, if someone misses a punch or a point when I'm judging, I'm just gonna say they whiffed their melee, and I'm gonna bring it in. I'm gonna bring it into
there you go.
Martial arts. I'll bring it into martial arts everywhere. They'll be saying it. We'll be watching like judo at the Olympics, and they'll be like, "Oh, he whiffed his melee."
network error.
Yeah,
got an anteater. Code.
I mean, like, I understand the development side. I'm not an armchair dev, but I understand the development side of the thing that makes Destiny feel good to shoot gun is the engine, and to have dedicated servers, you'd have to remake that engine,
right?
Which would take a fuck ton amount of money and time. I'm not saying they can't do it, and I'm not saying they shouldn't do it, but I get why they haven't done it.
Right.
I'm not giving them an excuse in the sense of like, but it would. If they updated the engine, I imagine that would be the work that would be a whole other expansion.
Sure.
It would be like that. It would be like, you don't get an expansion or any seasons for this year. We're updating the whole fucking engine.
Right. And I will say, because people always say, well, that would kill the game, but it's like Diablo 4 literally did spend an entire season not releasing content, but doing a quality of life update. So the entire season and it was well received, and people still played the hell out of it and dug it because it was like, finally, here's all these quality of life improvements that we've been asking for. Like, I really do think that you could devote a half a year or even an entire year to just fixing fundamental things, and I think it would bring people back, and you would like look at the map pack. Like that was something that was like, yeah, it probably took quite a bit of development time, but it wasn't anything substantial or amazing. But man, people flocked to that.
Pete Parsons couldn't buy an Aston Mine because of that map pack, so you better be grateful.
God,
better be grateful.
Well, going off of the rumor leak Jason Schreier had spoken about, that kind of seems like we're going to get now anyway.
Right. And
we'll get the Shadowkeep size expansion, and then we'll get a free update next in the year that's a bit like Into the Light, in a sense of it's like core playlist stuff.
Yeah, that's.
So imagine for a season they go, right, here's free PvP maps, 2 PvP maps, free 2 strikes, a Gambit map, and this game mode.
Right. Yeah, I think
that's how you get people back into your game. After this shit, you have Tyson Green come out wearing a green t-shirt with the Drifter on it, and he presses a button and it just says Gambit map behind him on a big screen. whole community is cheering. Destiny is back.
We're so
best expansion, better than Final Shape. It's just a Gambit map pack. But yeah, no, maybe we do have that now.
Yeah,
that's what it would be.
I am curious how that will affect I'm curious what the monetization is going to be like moving forward, because like if they are going to go out and market it as it's going to be a smaller size expansion, it needs to be priced appropriately. But if
it can't be priced Final Shape,
right? It can't be priced Final Shape. So it's like, are they gonna lean even harder now into Eververse, because it feels like that's not going to sustain, or is this part of the big master plan of like, well, if we have 25% less people working at Bungie than we did back in October, then, or it's probably even more than that now, right? If you think of all the other people, maybe that's fine, because that delta there is enough to keep everything going, and that's where we just don't know. But that was kind of what I was wondering. Like, I don't know.
I'll say, and I know not everyone thinks this way, but I'm more inclined to spend money on silver if I know the game is doing well. I'm happy with the game, and I know that they're trying, and they're, like, I'm not going to spend money like when Shadowkeep came out. Like, I've bought Shadowkeep, it was I'm not going to spend silver, because I probably did, but I'm going to buy silver. But Final Shape comes out. Oh, the DLC is fucking amazing. But this time there's more content that's free. It's smaller stuff. I'm spending less money on expansions, but I've got this bit of money left over that I'd normally spend on the expansion. The game's in a good place. They gave me strikes. They gave me PvP maps. I might buy that ornament in the Eververse store. I know not everyone thinks like that, but there's going to be some people who will do that.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, this is where we're at in gaming now.
Right.
Cosmetics, free to play cosmetics and bundles and shit. That's what funds games. We're at that level now. I know people go, yeah, but like Elden Ring and it's like, yeah, outliers. These games are outliers, unfortunately.
Right.
Like, yes, AAA games come out and they do really well, but most of the year AAA games come out that are full price games and they do not do well. Look how many games that do or badly compared to the absolute bangers that come out that are AAA games. It's far and few in between. We're now at that point where that's just gaming and it's shit, but you can't really do anything about it.
Yeah, well, that was like, so it was like last year at the Video Game Awards or whatever, like there was that Sega ad where they're like, hey, all these classic titles that you like we're making new ones, right? They like Golden Axe. But the one so my wife is a huge Jet Set Radio fan of like both of those titles. Yeah, they're doing Jet Set Radio, and they announced that they're going to make a new Jet Set Radio title. And so she like damn near freaked out and like, and so she's been trying to kind of follow that news. And there was a rumor that that when it comes out, it's going to be an open world, ever persisting, like live service game. And she immediately like her heart sank because she's kind of avoided that, and she always gives me crap about Destiny and all that because it's like she
Genshin Set Radio.
Yeah, and she's kind of against that, and I get why, and like she plays a lot more kind of like older games, but I told her, I was like, we're gonna have to rip this band-aid off at some point. So there was gonna be a game that came out that you were gonna want to play, and it's gonna be a live service with microtransactions, and you just need to like you just kind of have to accept that that's how games are existing now, because it's more efficient for them to monetize that way. And like I know you hate to hear that, but that's just kind of what's happening.
It's just like streaming services.
Yeah, exactly. To be
honest, I'd rather have a free-to-play game that has microtransactions in, this can sound bad, than paying for a membership like World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
That really puts me off trying. Or
right.
which Final Fantasy is it, the online
was it 14?
I really am put off by that membership thing.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I don't like pay for a membership.
Do you remember when there was that made up rumor that Destiny was going into a membership thing, and people had a meltdown, and they had to come out? It was around Christmas, and they had to come out and go, "No, we're not doing that," because someone just made it up for fun, who normally leaks stuff.
I will say though, if you want to like oversimplify it, I kind of look at seasons as
but I look at it as, oh look, I pay £80 at this point in the year for the whole year of Destiny. Yes, it's like a membership, but I don't have to pay that if I want to play the game.
You're right. You can just log in and play if you want to without having to commit to that. And I don't have to I get that
membership. I know PlayStation Plus and shit, but I don't have to have a membership to pay EVP. I don't have to go. I don't want to buy the expansion this year.
Right.
I can. Yeah, exactly.
Because I feel like I'm locked into having to pay. Like, say if I really like the Final Fantasy game, I haven't tried it, but then I'm like, well, I have to fucking, if I want to pay more, I've got I know they do deals for like 3 months. It's like, oh, I want to pay again. Oh, well, I don't like that. So I genuinely would rather have, like, I know not everyone has it, but I've got quite good discipline when it comes to things like that.
Yeah.
Like, I sit there and think, that's a cool cosmetic. Do I need it? No.
Right.
Like, would I be happy for like 10 seconds? Yes. Will my Guardian look a bit cooler? Will I wear it all the time? Probably not. Okay.
Right. because 2 weeks from now, a different cosmetic will come out that'll cause you to like.
Well, yeah,
It's one of those things that the ADD, we'll call it. Maybe that's the wrong and insensitive thing to describe it, but the number of people like Scotty in our clan where they'll pay $20 for some cosmetic, and then like we'll be sitting around in a raid and they talk about how cool it is, and then like the next week they'll buy another cosmetic and swap it on. I'm like, Jesus, like I can't burn through that. Like that gives me anxiety.
So
Yeah.
because Final Shape did well, and I had, I had the money to do this because I wouldn't do this anyway if I didn't. I bought the Ace of Spades ornament. I already had like 200 silver left over from when I, from when I had bought silver before, like ages ago. So I was like, I'll get the Ace of Spades thing. But other than that, I think I sometimes buy the Christmas stuff, the Christmas ornament stuff. And I get given a PlayStation voucher for Christmas or something by like my sister or something. And I'll do that. But some people cannot handle the weight thing, and they praise on that. And I get it's shit. But I think people need to. I think as it goes on, more people will be more attuned to that. I hope anyway. But, there's kids now, people playing games who have only known games as a service.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. That's kind of weird to think about.
Right.
They're not going to know any different, so people aren't going to be as unhappy. But I think maybe Destiny will lean more into a game as a service. Maybe we'll get more. I don't know.
All right,
would you pay for a PvP map pack?
Yeah. Yeah. I will pay I will pay whatever the number is, but if it's actual content that is tangible and
say it's $12 to $15 for free PvP maps.
Yeah. Well, they used to do that, right? They're like, I literally saw for sale at like a used bookstore. Someone was selling. They actually had a copy of the Halo 2 map pack for Xbox.
Oh, Halo.
Right, and that was like $20 or so when it came out, and like.
Really?
I think it had like 7 or 8 maps on it. Now I'll look it up, but they literally used to do that. Call it.
I don't know how it would work in Destiny because there's going to be people who don't buy it. So then, how would you match make?
Well, that's the weird thing is they used to do that. Like I know when
and it still works.
Yeah, like when Call of Duty 4 came out, like you could buy the map. Like it was like one at a time that came out, and they were like $5 a piece or something like that.
Map pack.
Right, and so it was like, and you could there was a server that, or like there was a lobby that you wouldn't get match made if you didn't have the map. So like it used to be a thing, just like voting for maps also used to be a thing. Like why that went away, I also don't understand. But like
have 4 every game,
right?
Just Jeff 4, please.
Jeff 4,
or no? What's the new? Neomuna one, Circus Plaza.
Yeah,
Circus Plaza, Jeff 4, please. Just over and over again.
But when that was kind of one of those things, like when they first announced that Destiny was going free to play, and they were like, well, we're not going to dump resources into Strikes and Crucible because those are free to everybody. It's like, but you could. That's like one thing that I'm surprised they didn't try to monetize more and go, oh, we'll just not matchmake you in the new maps, and you'll split up the player base, but like if
money,
but like if you're gonna monetize the piss out of everything else, then like I don't think it's a stretch to say, hey, it's $10 for these 3 maps. Like, okay, like that's a reasonable ask, and if you like. Especially if we are going to be moving into this era where now the expansions are going to get smaller and they're going to maybe even like piecemeal things a little bit more, where it's like, oh, now maybe if you buy the expansion, it doesn't come with the season and you have to purchase the season separately. Like, I know that gets kind of annoying, and that's like kind of goes against like people have been arguing that the monetization has gotten like convoluted in the game. But like we've been doing map packs that are paid in the past. And like, that's like, I feel like that's like one thing people didn't get pissed off about, because it's like, oh, I like PvP. I want to have my resources go directly into feedback of letting people know that I like the PvP. Like, if anything, that gives a better like statistics and numbers of what to focus on. Like,
if we had like ornaments for PvP weapons, like Crucible guns
Sure.
specifically, we had the legendary ornaments for like Black Armory and some of the Gambit stuff.
Right.
Say if they did, like I love Frozen Orbit, and it's a Crucible gun, Frozen Orbit has a ornament in Eververse. I feel like it's not good for PvE. I don't think there's a good PvE role on that gun. Or for Rose, no one's running around with Rose in PvE as far as I'm aware, at least,
Probably
we
not.
give Rose an ornament, what I'm not advertising for shitty monetization practices, but yeah, things going to change. I mean, especially, I know this is slightly off tangent, but it is quite worrying. They also said that in the Jason Schreier article,
We will put a link to the Schreier article, by the way, in the
Yeah.
YouTube, just so people can kind of know what we're referencing.
For sure.
basically content vaulting is now kind of back on the table.
Yeah, I heard that as well. Because the game is kind
So-
of getting to too large of a size where it is getting difficult to push out
Yeah.
updates.
So what are they gonna vault? Gambit.
I think if they were to let us, like, if this were like a democracy and they were to let us vote, I could see that the general
No, because there'd
community.
be a bunch of PvE people asking for Crucibles vaulted.
I think. Well, yeah, you're probably right,
PvP
but
kept D1 alive.
it does. Yeah, 100%.
I know it's a different state now, but you can't get, like, the fun of Destiny is you can take guns from
Right.
PvP, PvE, and take them into the
Right.
up thing. No other game does that. You get rid of that, you might
Right.
as well play
Well,
Warframe, you might as well play First Descendant.
Right, and I think Trials still is enough of a
Borderland.
draw on weekends that, like,
Yeah.
people. Yeah, I don't think you'll ever get rid of PvP. I think you could get rid of Gambit. I don't know what that, because it's 5 maps and 1 game mode. I don't know what that would do to, like, actually alleviate some of these problems, but it certainly gets rid of, like, having to devote resources into balancing Gambit as much as they balance it. Yeah, getting rid of, like, Nessus or the EDZ. Like, I think you have to, like, I don't know. I feel like though that would shatter the community in a way that I don't think they could come back from. Like, if they start vaulting planets again, I think you're
Well, they're gonna have to,
right.
supposedly. I mean, right? Okay, it's the Jason Schreier article. I would trust him with this sort of information from his track record over a lot of other people.
Right.
They have not announced this yet, so it could just be something that they're discussing and not
Right.
necessarily concrete. So a lot of this stuff that we've talked about, I will say as well, is they have not announced this. Stuff could change. They could roll back on certain things. They could completely change course on what they're
Right.
doing now because of the reaction to what people have done from these leaks. So that could be another thing. Maybe they leaked some of this stuff to just, like, see the reaction. Sometimes they do. Not everything's a big conspiracy though, but yeah, things can change. So it could be, in a few months' time they confirm that they're not doing content vaulting. And they're I don't know, but might happen again.
Well, it will, for sure.
It will. You
It'll happen.
you look so done, man.
Yeah, they're gonna.
What if
they're
they
gonna do it.
vault PS4 Destiny 2?
I could see that. I could see that being a thing. Frontiers moving forward. I don't know if that solves the size problem or the balance problem. It definitely it eliminates 2 consoles on the.
Should we start a GoFundMe for Scotty's PS5?
Please.
I think.
Get a sponsorship
Get
for the money of good Scotty's.
I hope that there are other things that they try to. We'll call it low hanging fruit. Before we start talking about vaulting planets.
Well, maybe they get rid of some of the battlegrounds that aren't as good and just keep some of them. Because the new battlegrounds are in new spaces and they're creative.
Right.
I'm not saying the old ones weren't, but they're in sort of patrol spaces.
Yeah.
So, well, actually, Well, then
Yeah, but like how
that
much?
wouldn't really matter
How much?
if it's in a patrol.
Yeah, how much space is that taking up? Right, like that's the.
Yeah, I don't know.
I
Get
don't.
rid of Volg.
Yeah, well, I like that. That was that was part of the announcement of like the vault. Like, oh, we're putting stuff away. We're also bringing stuff out, including vault of glass. So
Vault
Vault of Glass has stayed its time. We're going to bring it back again in a few years. Aphion's going to have an extra set of legs. He's going into a Galahorn Perfected is going to be the drop rate,
right?
From it, and it's going to come out with the Warlock King. That'll be the new DLC.
There you go. I was gonna say you could get rid of the moon and get rid of like,
well,
but
the thing is,
but they wouldn't
they're
because that's
happy
the start.
The light and dark,
Right.
Start,
it starts with that, right?
It starts from Shadowkeep,
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah, well, they should just vault it because just get rid.
I do think that was a waste. I do
Get
kind of
rid of-
think that was a waste because it's a big place, kind of.
Get
Yeah.
rid of the moon. Get rid of the Shadowkeep content. Get
I
rid of
think
the Nightmare
EDZ
Hunt,
should go.
get rid of everything.
I could see them getting rid of
100%.
EDZ and just
I
keeping.
think it. As much as I love the Arms Dealer Strike, I think it has no purpose in the game.
Yeah, or I was going to say I could see them just keeping the strikes, right? You just make like isolated, kind of like what they did with the Mars Battleground, right? Where it's like it's just that
Is that
part
still
of
in
it.
the game?
I believe so. Yeah.
Because I really like the Arms Dealer, so I don't want that.
Right. So, but yeah, I mean,
It's-
really, like what? Here's the thing, though, is I think on a logistic level, yeah, it kind of makes sense. Maybe people aren't patrolling the EDZ much at all, but getting rid of it is just another one of those. You lied to us and said you weren't ever going to do this again, and you're doing it.
Pitch. The Final Shape story was a Vex simulation. The Witness won, and Final shaped a lot of the planets out of the game.
Yeah. They still need to just do like they need to like, and I know maybe logistically this is like damn near impossible, but they need to like separate the game into like different where it's like you have like, because people talk about there's no onboarding thing. It's like, yeah, the Red War would have been perfect if you just kept that in the game. Like, let people replay the campaign. It's like, all right, we'll make that a standalone thing where the only thing that persists through all of them is your vault, right? Like, I'm not even going to pretend to know what the logistics of something like that is. But if you want to let people go, hey, you can play the Red War and you can play these strikes, but you're going to need to you're only going to be able to play them in this version of the game.
Well, the main reason is for the vaulting, which they've said, and I agree with this. It's not the fact, because people at first thought it was the size on consoles,
right,
and your PC, but obviously people have the COD's fucking huge. That's like 200 gigabytes or some shit like that.
Right.
Why do you want 200 gigabytes of COD? I don't know, but it's not protein. But it's how you would do tests, how you would do testing for the game, how you would do fixes and bug fixes and hot fixes and things like that. You'd have to load the whole of the game every time you wanted to do it. And that was why originally they did it, because they were saying like it was taking like over a day to load stuff.
Right, and trying to, but that's just it, right? Is you release the Red War campaign,
like
right?
What you're saying, I don't know how they would do. Like I genuinely have, I wouldn't know. But yeah, like COD did things like that. You can download this part of the game, even though it's
right. Yeah, and it's like, I mean, I hate to cite this, but like, I mean, Master Chief Collection has, when you first load it up, you can choose which of the games you want to download, and then specifically what of the map packs.
They're not live service though.
No, but they do have a daily post, and they are like online all the time. Like, I don't know. It's just like people have solved these problems in other ways, and I understand that we're talking about like balancing the game across different eras and things like that. But if you're talking about just having like, okay, you have a D1 onboarding thing that you encourage people to download for the first time, and you go through the Red War campaign, all the loot that you collect in that, you can then transfer over to the next era, and then maybe the next era is the Light and Dark saga, which is kind of what we're doing now, and that's like kind of the game as it exists. You can keep it on your console if you want, but they're not going to update it anymore. And then you have Frontiers, which is just going to be, you know, you still have the Strike playlist and the Crucible maps and things like that. So it's still a sizable game, but it's only going to be the new planets. And if you want to go back and do the old raids, and you got to close that app and you got to open up, you know, the Light and Dark saga version of it. Like, yeah, it's kind of a pain in the ass and keeping track of it. Well, yeah, I guess so. Like but it's not, but it's still, but a different
server. It's like
right.
A different server.
Exactly. But the delta there is like all of your items, your vault persists through all of that. Cause that's the big looming thing is like, you know, and it's just like, if the game's busted in the Pale Heart, it's just going to stay busted because we're not updating it anymore. Obviously, if there's something that literally like breaks your console, then they have to fix it. But like,
yeah,
you know, if a weapon's busted, it doesn't matter. It's going to be busted in Vault of Glass when you're playing it in there because we haven't balanced it right. Everything's balanced for the current era of what we're.
I mean, it was kind of
updating.
like that in D1 anyway, you know, because you'd go back into VOG. Obviously, there'd be a certain cap on how high you'd be over. But when Taken King came out, you were like 320 light. You'd go back into VOG,
which was still 170 or whatever.
Like,
yeah,
like 160 or whatever.
Yeah,
fucking, you know, like Aethion was a choke.
Right.
And that's fine. I mean, you're not doing it for Pinnacle.
Right. But like I don't know what the development of that is or what the feasibility is, and maybe it's not even possible. But it's like
another thing they said is they were given one chance at doing a new player onboarding thing, so they started with the Cosmodrome stuff and Shorehorn and that, and then they were basically told leave it.
Right.
That's it. Just leave it now.
Yeah. I that is definitely I think the problem with you're going to have people that are forever not going to, it doesn't matter how good the onboarding is. It's the fact that this game has been out for 7 years and people don't want, because there's, you know, people talk about all the,
it's been out for 10. I know it's not, they're separate games, but the franchise and it's like, what would you call it? Like reputation.
Sure.
It's 10 years.
I like that you guys call it onboarding like it's a job.
Well, it is.
It's a part-time job,
right?
Yeah.
But you know, it's
he's done. He's ready to jump ship.
Well, but it's the exact same reason. Like I know, Map, you were showing me like Warframe that one time, but it's like it's a game that's been on for how long? I don't want to learn all these new systems.
The game's a lot different to when it came out. I didn't play it when it first came out.
Sure.
The game it was an actual stealth game when it came out. It is not a stealth game. I mean, there's stealth missions,
right?
But it's like, it was like, you know, and like I think it's like the tagline for the game is like ninjas play for free or something like that.
Yeah.
It was.
Right.
But it was way more that when it came out, like versus what it like bullet jumping, the main draw of the game, the movement thing that you can fly around the place just by jumping. That was a bug and was never meant to be in the game. And then they kept it, or I believe it was something like that. And then that's warts the identity of the game. So, yeah, and things change. I mean,
right.
I play both Destiny way more, but I feel like Warframe isn't as mainstream as Destiny, if that makes sense. I'm not trying to start wars with the Warframe community because I do play the game, but just from my perspective, it doesn't seem as mainstream. Like I see more people know what Destiny is than people go Warframe. Like I mentioned Warframe to someone, and fuck is. And they think I'm talking about like some tactical, you know, like civilization game or some shit like that.
Yeah, exactly.
But I guess the point I'm getting at though is like it would take a lot for me to jump in on an arbitrary day, unless you marketed it like unless a Warframe 2 came out. In which case, okay, it's like a fresh start. Like, and I get that's like an argument a lot of people make. If Destiny 3 came out, maybe I'd actually jump in. Because it's like it's a fresh start. Everyone's starting from square one. But I think this is where Frontiers, you could fix this in marketing. And if you market it as like it's a fresh start, it's like its own standalone like application that you download.
Maybe they will.
Right. And it's like
that, but maybe they will market it as like come and play Destiny 2 again.
Right.
It's like a fresh start for the, you know.
Right. And it literally, like, when you load it up, it's not going to tell you to download the final, or it's not going to tell you to purchase Final Shape and Shadowkeep. It'll have that in there of like, you can go and download this previous era of it or something. But
is Shadowkeep and Beyond Light free? Because I've seen a number of people say that now, and I'm like, but I don't think it is because it's in the packs. But
I think it was free for a period on PlayStation or something like that.
I know that, but I've seen people say that it's free and they're not on PlayStation, so I don't know.
I'll look up Steam right now. I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, I know it was free for a period of time, but I've spoken to people who have like, I haven't bought it. I've never played it. I don't have PlayStation. The PlayStation Plus thing. I didn't get off of that, and I've got it for free. I can play it. It doesn't say I bought it on the store, but I can play it. So I don't know. And then I was like, oh no, you said the vaulting. Are they going to vault Shadowkeep Beyond Light?
It looks like Shadowkeep is still $20. The Shadowkeep pack is $20.
That should be £3. I paid like 70 quid for that deluxe edition, but that should be £3, mate.
Yeah,
That's the thing.
So what is...
That's the thing. All us suckers paid 70 quid, or not all of... I don't know what you bought. But did you buy the deluxe edition of Shadowkeep with the seasons?
I did, yeah.
Right.
I don't think I did.
Right. I know, like, we're now at the final shape level of content expansions, but if they're shifting back to that size DLC, they're going to be obviously... It's a bit like, well, fucking hell, we've downsized a bit. As long as the raid is good and the dungeons are good and they've actually put fucking effort in, I think people would buy that. And I'm not like trying to give them a free pass for this shitty behavior of sacking everyone. But,
so I'm looking here. So like,
I'm more in the sense of like people reacting like, oh my god, the game is fucked. There will be nothing left.
Right.
But
yeah,
like talking to those people.
So the there's the Legacy collection, and that's $70 on Steam right now. It comes with Lightfall, Witch Queen, Beyond Light, Shadowkeep, Forsaken Pack, 30th Anniversary, Pit of Heresy, Shadow Throne, and Grasp of Avarice. So the dungeon keys for Lightfall and Witch Queen are sold separately, which is like insane to me. But $70, like all of that should...
It goes on sale a lot.
I know, but that should be 30. Like there's no reason. Everything up to the current, not including, but everything up to the current expansion should always just get appended, and you don't increase the price of it. Like it's $30. Like I don't care.
I want to just say a slight tangent, right? I saw people, and it was a very small number of the community, but fuck you, like they said the reason this all happened is because Bungie and Destiny is woke. Fucking hell, you are out of touch.
It's like the stupidest argument for...
Why? Like, there was people that were saying that because of Nimbus and the fact that Saint 14 and Osiris are a gay couple, that's the reason why Bungie laid off all the people. Destiny's, like, not making it, is failing and dead or whatever. Huh?
I'm not even responding to that.
Yeah.
I know I've put the time and effort up for that, but I genuinely think you are, like, I really wanted to use a certain word there, but I genuinely think you are, like, really stupid.
Yeah, don't even get me started. That's...
Yeah.
Right, we'll move on. That's enough attention for those people. I want to know if you guys would play Marathon.
No. I'm not interested in it.
That was fast.
Yeah, it's a different community that they're reaching out to, and it's almost it's almost, I don't want it to fail, but I wish that it didn't exist.
You don't want it to do well.
I don't want it to exist. Like, it's that simple. I don't want it to fail. I just wish that it was never incubated or manifested, or like because it is inevitably going to split the community. There's going to be people that leave here and go there. It's going to be this, why did this system get this better than this? And why is this monetized in a certain way? And I just...
Pete Parsons pregnant, and that's their child.
God.
Is Marathon.
I don't want it. No one wants it. That's the weird thing, is like...
I do get that sentiment. Like, I personally, I don't like extraction shooters. They
Right.
don't interest me at all. I don't like battle royales. The only one I've mainly played a decent amount of is Apex, and I wouldn't even say that much. And that's
Right.
You know, I mainly play because friends were playing it, and and I'd say I've probably got like 15 hours, 20 hours on. So it's not even that much for a live service game anyway. I will try Marathon. I'm more interested to try it now because it's a hero shooter. Because before it wasn't, but now it is a hero shooter, supposedly. They haven't confirmed that, but I believe that was in the Shire of the article, that it is now a hero shooter. That's what it's turned to.
I feel like there's too many of those at this point.
There are a lot because Valve's got a hero shooter coming out, and it's called like Deadlock or some rubbish like that.
Oh my goodness!
But that's why the Valorant guy is working on it, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Because it is now a hero shooter, and I will try it. I'm not going in like ooh, but it's like it's still Bungie PvP. I wonder if the guns feel the same as Destiny. I'm sort of wondering that, you know, like are there going to be pistols, revolvers in it that feel like hand cannons? You know, obviously they're going to feel slightly different, but there's still some crossover with Destiny and Halo. They're in the same engine. I'm wondering if because if it's in a new engine because it's got dedicated servers, so it's not in the Tiger engine. I'm wondering if the gunplay even feels the same at all, and I feel like that's the main draw of the game is that it's got the Bungie feel,
right?
Or as Pete Parsons dubbed, the Bungie magic, which never fails that fails every company. That you know, and Anthem with that BioWare magic.
Anthem.
Were you trying to play?
I couldn't tell you.
I don't think it's coming out on a PS4.
Yeah, it's probably true.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I had to.
All right, let's say in the future Marathon comes out and I have a PS5. I couldn't tell you because I want to see gameplay first.
We haven't actually seen gameplay.
Yeah, I mean,
CGI trailer.
Yeah,
I want to see gameplay of it as well, but I think I'm so far in the bitter barn with everything with this. It's like everything I'd see is that's cool. Why didn't they put that in Destiny? And I understand that they need to branch out. Like any company needs to they need to have, they can't put all their eggs in one basket, right? Like I get that, but there's so much like vitriol at this point in my heart.
They put one egg in about 50 million baskets,
right?
And they lost half of them,
right? And I have no desire to play an extraction shooter or a hero shooter. Like it doesn't interest me. Like unless there's something really interesting and unique about it, I just have no. Even if they put capes in it, I don't think I'd be interested. But
I think it has cape. Right. Would you play Gummy Bear?
That one's so weird to me. Like that, I also want to see gameplay of. Just like when it comes out, are we all going to go, oh, that was what they were working on? Like I honestly, that one, we'll call it morbid curiosity. I can't wait to see what that turns into, and if they're going to.
I want to know what Matter was. It matters to me now.
Yeah, it was like a card game. I thought it was like a card-based online card-based thing. I thought so. If what I remember was true.
It would also
Hearthstone kind of thing.
Genuinely, what were they doing?
It also would be interesting to see.
I want to know, was it Pete who sat there and went, why don't we try and all these different games of all these random that we haven't tried before. Like I know they split from Microsoft to make something that wasn't a sci-fi shooter. I know Destiny is fantasy. But ultimately it's kind of similar in the sense of like the basics are there. You know, it's a first person shooter that's sci-fi fantasy. The other part of the genre of it being a live service and a looter are not the same, but the sort of fundamental of it being, you know, the genre of it, you know, first person shooter, that's the same. Where the fuck did they go, let's make a card game? If that is, I don't know. I don't remember hearing anything about being a card game.
I
Right.
played.
and it being and there being a Smash Bros like MOBA.
Yeah,
Where the fuck did that come from?
Right.
I'm not sure.
Fucking hell, man! Why are you the CEO of that company?
But see that, but like that, we keep coming back to
I'm
that.
not
Like,
claiming to be able to do that job. I'm not claiming that I do a better job. I'm not claiming that I know what the fuck he does. I'm not claiming that he's not under stress and that he doesn't actually try. I'm just saying, like, where the fuck did that come into your head? Like, yes, we'll greenlight all these projects because
Right.
Destiny's made us money and they've got nothing to do with our core. Like, I told someone about gummy bears because I remember they put out a thing, like a job article for
Right.
gummy bears, and they wanted like a lead character designer or something like, or a gameplay designer, and the description was like, do you want to work on a game that's this, and this? And one of the things was a frog game,
right.
right? And one of my friends, they really like frogs, and I said, "Oh, Bungie's doing a game, this frog game." Fuck knows what that means. I should have showed them the thing, and I was like, "Would you play it?" And they were like, "No, why? You know, like
Right.
Bungie makes Destiny. Why would?" It's like,
Right.
I'm gonna close this episode out with a small essay I found.
All right.
If you'll indulge me, this is from the Destiny Circle Jerk subreddit.
Oh
So
God.
if you're familiar with that, you know what this
The
is about.
all the dads that have 9 minutes a
Everyone-
month to play the game. Yeah.
Everyone join hands. We're forming a circle time.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. My hands are up.
Okay. You ready? This is you know, if you're unfamiliar with the subreddit, it's ironic. It starts with disclaimer. For the best reading experience, listen to Deep Stone Lullaby while reading.
Oh my God.
After
Put it on.
After playing this game since 2017 and completing all the patrols and Grandmaster Lost Sectors, except for Paleheart and Neomuna Lost Sectors, throwing up emoji, it's time to throw in the towel. Now, as you're all aware, 15% of Bingo employees have been laid off, and it's really killed my motivation to play. Last time I quit the game, I did it for the same reasons as I did now, laying off their employees. The third other time I quit was because my favorite content creators pointed out the last 4 to 5 weeks of the season were boring. Sigh. Honestly, this whole ordeal has taken a toll on my mental health. I'm an empath, so the negative emotions the laid-off employees felt are 15 times more intense for me. Those stupid code cattle could have made Lightfall a good DLC. They censored Lightfall, by the way. Instead, they chose to give me panic attacks and made me feel their collective grief over how they'll make ends meet. It honestly gives me FOMO to send more death threats to Bungie employees for not listening to my exotic catalyst ideas. Because what if they get sunset before I can send it to their work email? I'm looking forward to making another retirement post next year if Dado doesn't notice my plight and feature it in a video. It's been so fun to play with such a wholesome community that has murderous hostility towards minors and elements. Sorry. Let me rephrase.
I will say the community does. All right, this is a shit time, and I'm not in a happy mood about this whole thing. I do laugh and smile a lot, but it has put like a damper on my mood about the game.
Yeah.
The game's not going anywhere. Like it's not. If you think the game's suddenly gonna like disappear in the next like year, I think you're a bit in the head. I will happily, if it does happen, feel free to cut this up and send it to me. I don't care. But I'm happy if you're happy being right about that. But, it's not going anywhere. I don't understand the feel shit and be angry at what they did to those people working on the game, but don't let the other people who are still there trying to work suffer and let them not have a job because of this. There's still people working on this game. There's still people trying, and it's clearly their passion. Don't let them fucking. I'm not saying it's there. I'm not saying you have to play the game. All these people, I'm not saying you're trapped and you're being forced. I'm not going to hold a gun to your head and make you play this game because the potential of people being laid off. If you care about the game, then still play it if you enjoy it. Don't just stop playing it because you heard some content creator think it's going to disappear.
Yeah. Well said.
If they,
Well said.
I've thought about this. Yeah, that was well said. If they just in some weird, sick, twisted sequence of events basically said, you know, we've kind of got to a point where we told the story that we wanted to tell, and it's like, let's say, like in the alternate reality where Sony just closes Bungie doors because they're just hemorrhaging money, and that talent could be utilized in other projects, and there's no point.
They turn the building into an auction lot.
Right. I think they would still leave the Destiny servers on, because I think there's people that would still, you know, there's still people buying D1 and paying for it and playing it, and still, I think, buying microtransactions. They haven't turned those servers off. So it's like, I think the worst case scenario.
Destiny 1 stopped in 2016.
It did.
2017-ish.
And you can still go in and get a really good experience. You can also still play the entire campaign from the beginning, which I think is kind of a fun argument to make of like, yeah,
that was 7 years ago.
Right.
Destiny 1 stopped, and the servers are still up.
Right. So it's like the game will still be here and still be around.
You can buy silver on Destiny 1.
Yeah, people still do. Like, it's
You
still
can buy silver, go on Destiny 1 and buy Eververse items.
There's a I think it's called D1 Legacy subreddit that I follow, and people are still doing LFGs, trying to find raids, trying to find groups. Like, there still exists a whole Discord server that's like people trying to do flawless raids on there and doing raids and helping people with nightfalls. It still is a very healthy community, and that game has not gotten support for 7 years. So if nothing else, this game will still be here. You can still play it. You can still experience it and share it. Maybe it's in kind of a funky spot, but like if you're just trying to selfishly look at the game from like, it's still going to be here tomorrow, and regardless if they continue to,
in a very good spot,
right? And
the company
not so much. And I do think that there are, this has been kind of a like just shitty week. Like, after reading that information, like I thought when we got out of this in October that like, okay, that was rough. Moving forward, we got the final shape to look forward to. And like you said, Scotty, like, and what you guys both kind of said at the beginning of like, okay, Lightfall did bad. We saw the repercussions of that. Final shape did incredible. And we still saw even worse repercussions, like literally twice as bad, or 3 times as bad if you really want to look at it. And it's like, so how do we fix this as a community? And Datto came out with a video recently where he kind of had this like, he's like, God, like, should I? Because he's never paid for Eververse items. He's never bought silver, and I'm kind of in that same boat. I've never bought silver before, and I don't want to share opinions on that one way or the other. I do think there's bullshit things like paying to skip the campaign. Like, that should never have been, that precedent should never have been set, and the number of people that do that, it blows my mind.
I'll tell you something funny. So my friend Scott, sorry to bait you out.
No, it's fine.
When we did final shape, we were rushing to do the campaign to be ready for the raid, and we realized that in our group that we were going to have, there were mostly hunters. All right, we didn't know about the sniper at the time, and we were like, fuck, we don't have any like, there's a potential that we have no warlocks, which means no well or anything. Right. So he bought the campaign skip on his warlock, but then we never ended. We never even ended up. Right. Sorry, Scott. I just thought it was quite a funny story.
But it's like,
he did it. He just went, "I'm ready," and he just loaded up as well. I was like, "Did you just buy the campaign skip?" He's like, "Yeah." It's his money. He can do what he wants with it. But I just thought it was funny. Yeah, no, it is funny. But it's just sorry, Scott. Sorry. But it's like, as a community, did we fail in some way as well? And it's bad. I don't know where I'm going with my thought now. But it's just like, I don't know. I'm not saying everyone should go out and buy Eververse. Like, that's not at all what I'm advocating. But like, I don't know how this could have ended up any other way, and it just sucks because it feels like, as a community that continues to play this game and support it and, criticize it when it's made bad decisions, but like, we talked about right before Final Shape dropped of like, oh, I want to be here and be validated that it was worth sticking out for all of this. And then it's like Final Shape comes out and it's incredible. And then this happens and it's like, how did we screw up? And it's like, I don't think we did. Like it just like, it really was kind of a corporate greed kind of thing. And there's the other part of it, which we didn't really talk about. And I don't want to get into, cause it's like, I think Scotty, we're past the point, but it's like, yeah,
the idea that like, you know, maybe they started all these incubation projects to seem like they were worth more to Sony when they bought them, and that's
I think I don't think that was the main reason.
No, but
it was like a ooh, we could do this,
right? And
half the reason.
I think they probably look and go, yeah, we can make a MOBA like game pretty quickly. We can pump this out. Or same with Marathon. They probably looked at it and go, we can turn this around in a couple of years. And like as anything else does, and I think, you know, you could partially blame COVID for some of this, but it's just like the fact of the matter is like, I don't think there's anything that we as a community could have done better or worse all along to direct this. And it just kind of sucks that it's like, you were trying to support this game and then it just like it blows up in everybody's face for the developers and for the community, and it's just kind of a shitty, somber time. But I don't think the game's going anywhere. I think that's all I was, I guess, trying to get with this. But you know, it's like
we'll start ever GoFundMe verse help fund Pete Parsons' next Porsche 911.
So yeah, I mean, I get that maybe this was the point that you want to turn away from the game and don't want to play anymore because you don't want to be part of what just feels like an uphill battle for success, and you're tired of seeing people on Twitter go, this game should die, and you know, it's like it sucks. I think there was even at one point, and I saw him like a Dado lover, like I do like his content, but like at one point he was like, you know how much it sucks to tell people that you like playing Destiny, like you either get remarks of like, oh, that game's still around, like people still play that game, or just, you know, the convoluted, distorted news that people hear, and it's like then you're sitting there explaining for 5 minutes that the news they heard was wrong, not why you play the game. Like that's
like I said, like people are going to hear D3 was cancelled, game dying,
right? Like
that they're going to hear that,
right? People
on the outside, and they're going to think, well, Destiny 2 is not getting content anymore. They're not making D3. It's gone.
No, you don't get to spend the time going, no, that's it's like it's in a great spot. There's like 10 different raids you can play. There's all these cool dungeons, and yeah, it's kind of monetized in a shitty way, but like if you get into it, it's really fun. Builds are cool. Like you don't even get, I don't get to have that explanation to people. I have to spend 5 minutes explaining to them that
I'm sure I said a Reddit post saying I just started playing this game. Should I not bother now because of the layoff?
Right.
I'm pretty sure I said something like that.
Right. And it's like, no, like, but it's just like the news gets handled in such a short, condensed, like people just want the TLDR, and it's like, no, there's so much more to all of these stories. And I feel like this probably happens with other communities too, where you hear something from a headline article and then you go talk to somebody who plays that game and you're like, that couldn't be further from the truth. And it just sucks right now because it's like...
I tell people I play Overwatch and they go, wasn't it the PV cancelled?
Right.
I didn't know Overwatch was a game.
Right. 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 Yeah, it's just, it sucks. And it like just all around. And I'm not saying, being a player is just as bad as being a developer that just got laid off. Like, I'm not trying to make some kind of comparison of like sympathy, but it's just like, this just feels like this is like a no-win scenario, not for like the death of the game, but just like, I think I speak for all of us. We want this game to keep going and to succeed and do all these great things. We want to
still be here and chat utter shite
right
to each other.
Right.
I know you guys, that we love that, but
right.
You know,
but it just feels like, man, this sucks, and that's the final takeaway.
Yep. No.
We've got to do that music one soon. We've got to do something positive.
I know.
I know.
So yeah,
we've talked about a lot of music on here.
I'm sure that all of you, the developers that listen to this podcast, you know, our heart goes out to all of you, and I'm sorry that this happened again. I'm sure there's probably some of you that made it through that first set of layoffs, and now you've got your hair has started to thin because of it, and now you got laid off, and it's like, that's a shitty feeling, and I think
that one person,
it sucks.
There were 2 days or like a week from starting maternity leave.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and
is that legal?
I think it's because they didn't tell them that they were pregnant.
Oh,
it was technically legal.
Okay. Then okay, you can't. Yeah. Okay. Well, that sucks. And yeah, I mean, I hope all of you land on your feet and that the severance package that you got keeps you going until you can find something else.
The thing I hear is that at least they've done that.
Yeah.
I know it's such a small thing, but I know a lot of places just go like, fuck you, bye.
Yeah. I think that is one staple in like the United States, that severance, like when layoffs occur at a company like that, you're almost guaranteed to get at least something to keep you for a month or two while you try to find another job. And it's still, there's that guttural, visceral feeling of wanting to throw up because you lost your job at seemingly something that was completely out of your control. And maybe even things that you sat in meetings and poured your heart into of, if we keep doing this, we're going to have to lay people off, and it falling on deaf ears. Lord knows I've been through those kinds of conversations, and I know you've been laid off before, Map, and like I've seen it before. It's such an awful feeling, and I am terribly sorry that was like, it's just one of those, like, people are just going to remember that day, and it's just like, it hurts. So
yeah. And also,
especially if that was like your dream job,
right?
No, you're good.
A lot of people, I imagine a lot of people laid off were fans of the game,
right?
And then got a job there because they were such big fans of it. I know there's a lot of people who work there,
right?
Fans of the game before they started working,
right?
Yeah. And on a more positive note, I guess just like, those of you who are leaving the company now, like, thank you for the work that you've put in thus far. And I know that whatever, studio you end up in the future, we will probably be there to play it. We play more than Destiny. So just know that your work will not be unnoticed just because you're not working on Destiny, even if that was your dream game to work on, there are plenty of other incredible games out there, and we will be playing it. And thank you for all the work you've put in on this franchise that we have poured our heart and soul into playing as well. So thank you.
100%.
All right.
Well said,
I think
Scotty.
that about closes it out. Thank you.
I'm going to make a post on LFG. Car Dealer's Edge must have God roll private jet.
Keep it going.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for listening and hanging out with us for a while. Thank you, Map and Rob, for hanging out with me for a while and talking as always. If you guys want to, I know we didn't stream this one, but we do stream every now and then. Go check us out on Twitch. Map posts on our Twitter account sometimes as well now too. So go check us out on Twitter.
Memes are coming.
Yeah. And if you're watching this on YouTube, thanks for checking us out on YouTube. If you're listening, go check us out on YouTube. We make video versions of the podcast and other stupid stuff that I upload.
You can see our weird faces.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you guys next time, hopefully with a less bleak episode.
Or bleaker, depending on how negative we want to be.
Tyson Green comes out with a Gambit rework. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hype for Gambit hype.
Yeah.
Woo!
Come on. Woo! All right.
Bye.
Peace.
Bye.